Welcome to the Beyond the Lines podcast. I'm in a world where it's so divisive. We live in a world that is not unified at all. And we want to create a space. We want to create an environment. We want to have conversations that love beyond the lines. So here's what we do. In our personal lives, in our social media lives, whatever that is, we draw lines in the sand. We say, we can't love you past that line. We don't want to talk to you past that line. We can't respect you past that line, and we don't even want to listen to past that line. And we want to be a place where we can listen to one another, even if we disagree, even if we don't understand where each other are coming from. So today we have a special guest that is Mark Faul. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm DJ, and this is Jonathan, and we are so excited to have a conversation today with Mark. He is an expert on suicide prevention and mental health and mental building a mental health awareness and all that kind of stuff. So we just want to have a chat with him. What does it mean to love beyond the lines? What does it mean to love people who are struggling? And how do we as believers, how do we as friends, most importantly, come alongside those who are struggling? So thank you so much
for being with us. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No
It's so cool to have you. I've actually taken a class with you, like a 2-day course. I think it was called the IST program.
IST, yeah.
All about suicide prevention, and the week that this is going to release is Suicide Prevention Awareness Week. Whenever it releases, it's that week. So if it's releasing in that week, it's happening. So
there you go.
We really wanted to talk to you about this thing called suicide prevention, and talk about how do we better help people who are dealing with those thoughts and help them get out of the shame and just walk alongside them and just start removing that stigma, because I think there's a lot of fear that surrounds even people who aren't dealing with those thoughts, but approaching somebody who they think might be dealing with those thoughts.
Yeah, there is a lot of stigma around it, and it's really it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I mean, sometimes it's one of those phobic topics where we're just like, do I bring this up? Sometimes we may have maybe we're feeling it ourselves, or we have somebody that we might know who are thinking they're just not acting like they normally do, and something's not quite right, but I can't put my finger on it. And so we need to ask some questions about that. But one of the cool things is when it comes to suicide prevention, a lot of people often provide what we call invitations when it comes to suicide. People are often saying, I need some help, but they may not know how to express that. One of the foundations when it comes to suicide prevention is that we go under the premise of people really don't want to die. God created us. Leaving this earth usually isn't something that we're often just charging toward. So people really don't want to die, but often maybe life circumstances, whatever that may be, may just be hitting them so hard. They've tried everything, and it's just really painful to live, and that's the only way out that they can see. And so people often send like invitations out, like I mentioned before. We do this illustration of kind of like the river of life. I don't know if you remember it from when you were there in the training that we did, but we talk about the river of life. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience of maybe drowning or just possibly drowning in water. I know for me, I'm not the best swimmer. If I can't touch the ground or touch the edge of the pool within 2 strokes, that ain't for me. I'm not going to do that. But drowning is just a horrible, horrible experience if you've ever had that. And most people who are in that drowning experience, they don't just kind of, okay, well, I guess I'm going to drown. Most likely they're doing a couple of key things. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're reaching out, they're trying to get a breath of air. And suicide, you put that metaphor into suicide, it fits perfectly, where we have people who are just, life is just rocking them big time, and they're floating down this river of life, and they're just going, somebody just help me. Somebody give me a minute just to take a breath. And so that's where we can notice what those things are, and we can notice that, hey, this person's really struggling. People send all these invitations for examples, some actions that they may be doing that they may not do in a normal situation. And again, it depends on the relationship that you have with the person. But if you know somebody really well, you know their personality, and something has happened, maybe a life event that's occurred where they're like, wow, that must have been really tough. Or often it's some sort of a loss. People will, if they're thinking about ending life, that could be an indicator that, hey, maybe something is going on. Maybe something is not quite right. So their actions will be a little bit different. Like they may not be the life of the party and they always were. They may be acting maybe depressed. They may go into isolation, like what's going on, withdrawing from people. They may be talking about feelings that they'd never had before, feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, feeling depressed, things of that nature. And those could all be just little indications like, hey, what's going on? And hopefully we're aware to identify those and maybe ask some questions.
Yeah. And my first thought is, let's move away before we jump into like what's the proper thing to do when we see that happening. What is usually what we do, like normal, like people who aren't dealing with, when we see somebody struggling, that what have you found most people do when they see that happening?
It depends. Yeah, good question. It depends what the situation might be, but often we tend to avoid it. We tend to walk away. We'll just ignore it because I don't know what to do. What if I do ask them about suicide or something and they say yes? And I'm like, oh my gosh, now what? And which is the cool thing about suicide prevention. We don't have to know what to do. We just have to open up our ears and listen for a while. That's the key. So yeah, it is a courageous thing to ask a question about suicide. Often it's the elephant in the room at times. I don't know. I often use the illustration of when you come home to a family dinner and your kids come home from school. As a parent, you may ask your kids, so what'd you learn today? What do we need to talk about today? It's often like, hey, Mom and Dad, we want to talk about suicide. This will be great. What a great topic. That just doesn't happen. So we tend to avoid it. Also, depending on what generation you grew up in. You guys are young. I'm the old guy here. So in my generation, we didn't talk about suicide. It just didn't happen. That was kind of avoided and stuff. So the younger generation, obviously, it's mental health is in the news all the time now. So it's becoming more and more acceptable to talk about, and the shame is slowly reducing. So
Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think that former generations seem like they didn't struggle as much as people today?
I often say you're also a product of your environment. It depends on where you grew up in your home. A lot of it comes from maybe some religious beliefs and things. Where suicide could be seen as a sin. You just don't do that. You don't talk about that. It's also was part of the unknown. We weren't quite too familiar exactly what to do with that back in the day. And so, and there's a stigma over it, of course. There's some shame involved for some people. So, it can be a tough topic, and you stop and look at it. It can be a life and death situation, so that really makes people anxious about that, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, and one of the things, I used to work with college students at a former job, and I dealt with a lot of suicidal ideations and talking with students that way, and a lot of them, how we would find out was through their roommates or their friends, and a lot of the times their roommates or friends will be really scared about either telling someone or really scared about what the person is going through. How do you speak to someone when they're feeling that fear for another person?
One of the things that we find can be comforting is that you don't have to fix the problem. You don't.
That's good.
Because it's suicide. You're not going to fix the problem. If you could, we would call it a crisis, and we could quickly put that crisis in a little box, and we could fix it. Suicide often is a much bigger problem or struggle. And so, but for someone who identifies that from somebody, from a friend, a roommate, or a family member or something, and just that hesitation to even bring up the topic, that's normal. But the cool thing is you don't have to fix it. All you have to do is, well, not all you have to do, but the big thing you need to do is to allow them to express the pain that they're going through. Wow. And we just have to listen and create that opportunity, for them to vent and to express what's going on. Because obviously there's most likely some sort of pain going on, some sort of loss in their life, and maybe no one's ever given them the chance to express that. I was doing some training a while back with some of the prayer partners here at Central, and just it dawned on me how beneficial the prayer partners are, not just for prayer, because anybody could drop to our knees and pray to God. We've got an instant connection with Him. That which is so reassuring. But when people can go down to the front after a service and verbally express, this is what I need prayer for. And it could be a praise, which is awesome, but often it's like, I got this life issue that's going on. And just being able to express that can be just the beginning of some incredible healing. And I don't know if we give our prayer partners enough credit. They're listening to some stuff, and they're just and just being there and being kind of keeping their mouth shut and listening is just the beginning of healing for someone who might be thinking of ending their life.
Yeah. And a little context for the people listening who might not know this. We do at Central, at the church, after every weekend service, we have people who will stand up by the stage and pray for people. And often that's a question that the prayer partners will have. Some people will be really struggling, maybe dealing with suicidal ideation. And so that's kind of what you're talking about there.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Just in case somebody's not from here and have never heard of that.
Good point.
Another thing that you said earlier that I thought was really interesting, and I hadn't thought about ever before, is like that considering suicide isn't a crisis. Can you go further into that? Because I would have said, oh yeah, that's definitely a crisis of some sort.
Well, it can be, but often we kind of look at crisis as often like we can kind of define it as it's a one instant type of a thing. That's a bad way to explain it, but it's something that maybe can be fixed. Let's say, okay, I'm hungry. That's a crisis. For some people, that could be somebody who may be homeless or something like that. That's a crisis. But I can fix that. Here's some food. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go get something. Often, when it comes to suicide, often people have kind of thought through all of their avenues in order to fix this, and nothing has been identified that this is what's going to fix it. And this hurts so much. I want to just end that feeling. I want to end that pain. Ending my life is the one way that I can see to do that.
That's the only fix they can think of.
Yeah, at that time. Yeah. And so often, as we know, as I mentioned, being able to verbalize that pain, that frustration, whatever's going on, can help just have the brain kind of piece some things through and just identify, okay, yeah, that's a horrible thing that happened and that really hurts. But the more I talk about it, I can kind of see maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And somebody who is thinking about ending their life, I mean, if you put yourself, we have to put ourselves in their perspective. They're looking at the past. The last person who changed the past was Jesus when he raised Zacchaeus or Lazarus from the dead, kind of thing. I was like, otherwise we can't change our past. And yet often when we're thinking about suicide, we're just looking at the past, going, all my regrets, all the pain that's back there. It's tough, and it must be very difficult to look at all the time. Then they also isolate, so they're often very alone. I'm the only person who's feeling this way, which is probably so untrue. Many people have feelings that they're going through. And so one of the cool things about suicide prevention is we don't need to fix it, but we get the opportunity to, and I don't know if you remember this, but I give the illustration of a person who's thinking about ending their life in a pit, in just this dark pit. And they're all alone. There's nobody there. They're staring at the past. They're looking at death, and that's it. And us as a helper, we often want to just reach down to the pit and pull them out. That's all, because that's what we want to do. It's icky down there. I don't like it down there. I don't want to go down there. And so we want to do it. But one of the things when it comes to suicide prevention is the person who is thinking of ending their life, they're not thinking about the future. They're just stuck in the past. And so the best thing that we can do, instead of trying to pull them out of the pit, is hop in that pit with them and just empathize with them. And don't fix it. We're not going to fix it. but just empathize with them. Put your arm around them and go, wow, you must be in so much pain. Can you tell me about the pain? What's going on? And allow them to verbalize that.
Yeah.
And just, wow, just sit with that. And it's scary. It's a very courageous thing to do. I mean, it's not always happy. It's often not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's if you have the courage to do that and just listen to them, as you listen for the reasons for dying, I will guarantee that reasons for living will emerge. That is almost a promise.
Yeah, well, what's an
99%
example
time.
of that?
So an example of, so you lost your job. I can't support my family. Oh my gosh. We're broke. We don't have a savings account. I don't know what to do. And I love my children so much. What? You love your children so much. Okay. So maybe there's a reason for living. Maybe we should tell me about your children. You love them so much. And maybe there is a reason for living. Oh, yeah, but I hate again, I don't have a job, but I love my coworkers and stuff. Oh, your coworkers. Tell me about your coworkers. And you said you love your job. What would you like doing about your job? Kind of thing. Oh, so maybe you're not quite convinced that ending your life at this moment is what needs to happen. Maybe there's some other possibilities. Can I help you explore those possibilities? And it could be as simple as, like I said, we go off the premise of people don't want to die. If they could avoid it, they'll do it. So subconsciously, sometimes our body does some stuff too, or our minds, where we're talking like, you may be asking or talking to someone who's thinking of ending their life, and you're like, and they're right to the point. They say, I want to die, but, and just that one word, but, that's a life word of, but. Finish that sentence for me. But what? What is there? What? And help them explore that. And they may not. Often they're not even realizing that they do it.
Yeah.
They really aren't. They're just like, oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah. Well, maybe there are some reasons for you to live. Let's talk about that, and let them talk. You're not going to fix it, but you can sure listen, and that can be so helpful.
And I think that's where a lot of the fear can come from, feeling like, oh, my friend or, this person I care about is struggling with this and I can't pull them out of the pit.
Right. Yeah.
And all we have to do, basically what you're saying is, hey, go down with them and just sit there and just listen.
Yeah.
Ask questions and listen. And I think feeling like I don't have to know all the answers is pretty freeing for the person kind of.
Sure. And I dare say it's biblical. I mean, God created mankind. He's like, oh my gosh, you guys goofed up again? Are you kidding me? I guess I'm going to have to send down this guy called my son, Jesus Christ, and live with you guys and just be with you to experience what's going on. Yeah. It's kind of a biblical concept, believe it or not.
Right.
So
And so I'm just thinking like, wow, that's the theme of this podcast, loving beyond our lines. And in this case, maybe it's not a ideological concept or like a war or something like that, but this is like, the line is our comfort zone, where we don't want to step behind that line because, I have to go into the icky stuff and talk about the hard things. And, oh man, your daughter died or something like that. That's hard to hear. Like, that's not comfortable. That's the line we like in our comfort, in our selfishness. We just kind of want to stay back here. Like, and maybe we're not thinking that we do actually care for that person, but it's just so hard. Yeah. And you're saying the first step is just, you know what? I'm going to take a step beyond that line and just listen to them. Yeah,
and just listen. Yeah. And the step before that is to ask very clearly.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, let's not dance around this here. Are you thinking of suicide? Are you thinking of ending your life? Let's go right to the point. And if that's a gut feeling that we have, or they're expressing that, we need to ask them very clearly and directly to begin with. Because if that's the issue, that's what we're going to talk about. And again, most likely, if you say that, and if you ask that question and somebody is actually thinking about ending their life, you will almost see a physical relief come over them of thank you for having the courage to ask me that question, because maybe nobody else has, and that's what I've been thinking.
Yeah.
So thanks for having the courage to do that. And then we get to hop into the pit with them and tell me about that.
So you're basically saying if you're talking to someone and counseling them about their friend, giving them some guidance, and they came to you and say, man, I think my friend is struggling with suicide. They're acting really weird. You would actually encourage them, hey, like point blank, ask them. ask them point blank, are you struggling with suicidal thoughts, or do you want to commit suicide, or are you hurting yourself in any way? And you would say that's actually the best way to go about it.
Let's go right to the point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think some people, and maybe you can talk to this group of people as well, that think, well, if I ask, what if I implant that thought in their head, and then therefore they, you know what I mean?
Great question.
Yeah.
It comes up at every training that we do. No question about it. And here it is again. But yeah, behavioral health, the field that I work in, is very evidence-based.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing happens unless you can prove it by a bunch of statistics and surveys and all this fun stuff. There's in the history of suicide, of statistics, there has never been any evidence that shows that if you were to bring up the idea or ask a question about suicide to somebody who's not thinking it, it's not going to implant in their head of, I never thought of that. That's an idea.
Right.
It's never ever been shown.
Yeah.
And it's actually been shown the opposite, where it's actually more of a relief, whether they are thinking about it or not. Because even if they're not, they can just say, no, that's I'm not there, and then we can go, okay, cool. Well, what else is going on here? Let's tell me more about what's up. But yeah, that's a common question, and there's no evidence to prove that at all.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a relief. Like,
Yeah.
because again, going back to the fear part, I think we can fill ourselves up with all this stuff in our head about why we shouldn't do it, or why we shouldn't confront our friend or whatever that is, and cause us to not go beyond the line. So that's really helpful.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Asking the question is probably one of the most loving things we can do for them, because it's like you said, it can bring about relief, like physical relief, if they have been considering that. Maybe even because they're ashamed for having thought it in the first place. And that they think you're just gonna. So probably how you ask the question is really important too. You're not trying to, like, you're not thinking of doing suicide, are you? Are you like
right. Yeah. You don't want to put that shame factor on. Yeah. And yeah, we practice that as well. You remembered something. Nice. All right.
A few things. Yeah.
I like it.
Take some notes.
Yeah. You want to do it in a respectful, I'm really concerned about you. Yeah. Even saying the word hurt can be construed sometimes no, I'm not going to hurt myself. But that's what you asked, so I'm going to say no, but I'm going to go farther than that if I'm really thinking of ending my life. So we want to go, are you thinking of killing yourself, of ending your life, of suiciding? And yeah, go right to the point, and not doing it. You're not thinking of killing yourself, are you? And because that can be kind of shameful, and we want to give them as much, empower them as much as we to be honest with us and say, hey, I'm really concerned about you, so I'm going to ask this question point blank.
Yeah. And then I was thinking of this too while you were talking about the circumstance. Maybe they lost their job, and maybe one of their reasons for living is their kids. But I think a shameful way of then latching onto that is like, well, you wouldn't want to leave them without a father, would you? Like,
throw the guilt on.
Man. Yeah. You got to be careful just that you're coming from a place of you want to help and listen. I think that shaming is almost like you're trying to fix it for them again.
Right.
You know?
Yep. Yeah.
Here's a fix. Your kids, like, feel guilty about that, and then you should be good, right?
Right. Yeah, that's often, and that's so natural to do, though, especially depending on the relationship you have with the person. If it's a family member or a relative, you're like, what about cousin so-and-so? What about the kids? What about, and that's fine for you, but this is about them, and they are
especially if they feel like if they're a burden to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not there. They are looking at death. They're being alone. They're looking at the past. They're like, we want to come alongside them and just meet them where they're at. Done deal. And let them, and just be with them and love them, just like Jesus did.
Yeah.
Would you say a big part of it is trying to talk as little as possible yourself?
Yep.
Like when you're trying to help somebody?
Note the hesitation on that answer. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. You want it. And we've done the examples of, well, when I thought about this is what I did. And like, again, it's not about you. It's about them. So the more they can verbalize, and sometimes just sitting there in silence can be healing. Just allows them to realize that, hey, there's somebody still here. I haven't said a word in 5 minutes, but this friend, this relative, this neighbor is still here. And wow, okay, maybe I can trust them with maybe sharing a little bit more intimate stuff that's going on in my life. So yeah, don't be scared of silence. Sometimes that can be the best thing. And then again, our goal is to keep them safe just for now. We're not therapists. We're not counselors. We just want to keep them safe for now. And if for some reason we get the feeling that there's some harm that could possibly come by, that's pretty immediate, obviously there are some steps that we can take. By what are we calling 911, a crisis team. There's a suicide prevention hotline 24/7. We can call them, and if you're not quite sure what to do, they'll tell you exactly what to do. There are so many resources in Maricopa County.
And all over,
people
not
to get
just
help.
nationally.
Yes, yes.
The suicide prevention line is like everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's national.
I think you could just Google it too. I don't have it offhand. I've saved it in my contacts, my phone, but you can Google it pretty easily.
You can Google it. It's also 1-800-273-8255.
There you go.
If I could say that, but
Yeah.
So yeah, and you can. Yeah, they'll give you resources wherever you're at.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes too.
Yeah.
There you go.
There.
So
We'll have it all over the place.
Yeah.
It's really important. They're good
It
people
is,
too.
yeah.
So, and a big part what they do too is just listening, right?
Yeah, that's what they do. They listen, make a quick assessment. Okay, what's going on? And because people call that number not because they want to kill themselves, but they're calling that number because they want to live.
Yeah.
They really do. And that's what they do. And they do it very well, and they have some great resources in your community.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people learn, through stories. So do you have a story that you can kind of walk us through of like, hey, this is a point in time where you were dealing with this with someone, and, what are some examples that you have from your personal life or professional life of like a really easy, practical way that someone can, when someone says, yes, I am suicidal, or they know for a fact that someone is suicidal, like.
Yeah, I mean, personal example, a lot of my examples are come from a work-related perspective.
Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah.
Perspective and thing. But it's amazing to me how many people really have thought about suicide and considered it. Mm-hmm. We have statistics all over the place. I mean, I believe it was 2019, 47,500 plus people killed themselves in America. And that's a lot of people. I think I'm not a math person, but I think that's like 12 a minute. One every 12 minutes. And that's just the ones that we can record that are legit. There's a lot that we don't even know about, that are classified as something different from statistics and stuff. Again, being able to listen is just so key. It's so key.
Yeah, it is key. Like when I was, working with the college students I was working with, and a lot of the times, I would go there with, some other people, some other support, and a lot of times I'll be the one interacting with, with this individual, and a lot of the things that we just talked, and we were just really hanging out until the correct person or whoever they were supposed to talk to in the moment, were there. The professional were able to come. And I love that what you said. Like the most important thing, let's just try to keep them safe. And a lot of that is just having a conversation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we talked about things that were really trivial, like sports, and and do you like this and do you like that? Do you like to play basketball, or other things like, hey, like tell me about your family. Tell me what's going on, and tell me your story. I really want to know. Really want to get to know you in this moment. So, I think that's really good. And just being able to ask questions and not have the fear that you feel like you have to fix the situation. So, that's good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is the key. It really is. And then just getting them to the right help is when it's appropriate. And we start with, if you go to the crisis line, they can help you out. I often refer people to their health insurance, because most employers have the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, so they have free counseling, 3 to 6 sessions usually for free, so they can get that. The church central has local counselors that are vetted, so they can also find some assistance, some long-term assistance on that as well.
Yeah. What would you say in the circumstance where maybe it's a parent or a relative and the kid is maybe threatening, like they're considering suicide, and the parent's like, now you're just making it up, or you're just trying to get attention. What do you suggest they do in those circumstances? Because you can't fully know, but you can also be so in the moment and so emotional, like, now that can't be real. You're just being, difficult or something like that.
Right. And you're right. Often they are looking for attention. And so our answer for that would be give them the attention. Because at one time when you may not want to make that mistake. And it can be frustrating as a parent. It can be time consuming. But it also provides maybe the opportunity for some talking points, going, what exactly is going on here? Maybe there's something that some family counseling could help out with, just to identify why is this continuing to happen. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons why maybe that teenager is saying, hey, I'm thinking of killing myself. And so we still have that kid is still breathing. So let's see what we can find out, and what is causing him or her to say that. What is the stressor there? What's he or she anxious about? And for parents to be honest, what else is it? What's in the home? Don't want to blame anyone, but maybe with something else that maybe we can change in the home that could help in this situation and things. Or maybe there's something at school that we're not identifying that could help out. So, but yeah, and we have that in the clinic all the time, where people come in, even they're waiting for a doctor for like 45 minutes overtime, and they're like, where do I see the doctor? And if they say suicide, we have to hop, because we just take that seriously. And sometimes it could be an attention grabber, but we're not willing to take that chance.
Wow. That's a really good point. So it's always worth taking the time, always worth taking it seriously, even if you're 95% sure.
Yeah. You just, parents are now going, are you kidding me? But something we just don't want to take that chance. But then also maybe to go further and just try to identify what's the reason, why are they doing this, what's going on, because there's a reason for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great follow-up question. I don't know where it went.
No, that's all right. So what about if you're speaking to like teenagers who, their teenage friends, talking about your example, probably knows about it as well, but they're afraid to, if they tell their friend that they're going to lose their relationship. How do you encourage, because when you're a teenager, that's really important to you.
That is huge, as a teenager.
Yeah.
And that's a tough choice. However, life hopefully would prevail, and they would say, I want you as my friend, but you said this to me. I got to tell somebody. I got to tell an adult. I got to do this. And most likely, in hindsight, when that thought, that feeling is addressed and talked about, that could probably even strengthen that relationship instead of the fear of losing it. Often it'll strengthen it. So I would just encourage teenagers to, if they have a friend or something, they tell an adult. There's actually a teen suicide hotline just for teenagers. They can call them and say, hey, I got a friend who's struggling with some stuff, and I'm not quite sure what to do, and they could give them some specific guidance and things. One of the things we encourage them to do is maybe to have them call with the friend with that friend's phone, because then that phone number is on record for tracking reasons, just in case.
That's good.
Kind of a thing. So using their phone so they can identify where to find them if needed.
Wow.
If they're really struggling. So.
Wow. That's great.
There's all kinds of stuff out there.
We'll put that number in the show notes as well. I'm making Spencer do this.
Nice.
This is his second shout out on the So
thanks, Spence.
Yeah, we got to have that in there. Awesome. That is so good. I did think of, it wasn't a follow-up question, but it's a statistic I thought of, and you could correct me because I'm sure you're more aware of it than I am. But I believe from the ages 10 to 28, like suicide is like the number 2 killer in that age group or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, you're pulling me on stats now. I think you're right.
You don't have your PowerPoint, right?
I don't have it with me. Yeah, I think you're right. It's
really
that
close to
age
that.
range.
Yeah.
Age range. It's amazing how young that we're
Yeah,
seeing this sometimes. I mean, it can be even below the age of 10. You're like,
Oh my goodness.
that's just some stress for those kids, I guess. I don't know. But yeah.
It's
That's
serious, and
crazy.
so it's important that we take it seriously,
Right.
And not fear because we don't have to fix it. We just have to be there with them and ask questions and talk to them. And that we have resources. We have the phone numbers we can call. We have, if it's life-threatening, 911 is the first thing you do, and try to get the location of the person if you're not with them. These are all really good ways to love somebody. Like it's
Absolutely.
hard.
Yep.
It's yucky. The part of stepping into their hole is yucky, and it's not fun, but it's you could save their life. And I reflect on that number a lot, being in that age range right now. I'm almost out, but like that's the number 2 killer. Like we're not like in this current era of civilization. Like people this age my age don't die very often, but to suicide it's more common than it should be.
Yeah.
I reflect on that a lot. It's something we just need to be able to step up and do. So,
It's true. That's
yeah.
so true.
yeah.
That's so good. I have another question for you. So Jonathan, kind of in the beginning, we were talking about how suicide has a stigma around it. So, think about from a parent perspective or someone in any household or whatever, how do you create an environment in your house where suicide isn't taboo? Because it seems like the only time you would talk about it is when it's an issue.
Right.
But how do you create an environment with your kids or your family where, hey, this is something, emotions and how we're feeling is something that we talk about all the time. Like, have you been able to do that?
That's a great question.
Do we dare just say communication, and then after that communication, just being able to have an open dialogue with your kids. Most likely, if it's teenager, your kids probably know someone in school or something like that who has talked about it. Maybe I don't want to say joked about it, but it's probably been in conversation in their connections that they have, and just being able to have that open dialogue and to say, hey, how are your friends doing? How are you guys doing? And maybe even, hey, has suicide even? Do your friends talk about that at all? How are they doing? And things, is that an issue with the people you hang out with? And just being able every once in a while to say, any stressors going on in life, and how you guys doing? And just being able to open up that conversation can be very beneficial.
Basically modeling the ability to listen. So
Yeah,
that they can
pretty
even do it
much.
with their friends. Like just if you're able to listen to your kid, and even if they're not dealing with those thoughts at that time, just being like, tell me more about that. What are your kids? What are your kids? What are your students? That's not the right word, but what I mean? What are your friends?
Friends, there you
What
go.
are your little friends talking about these days? No, but like, man, I'm batting 100 today, so I don't even know what that term means. But what are your friends talking about at school, and are they dealing with suicide? And modeling that you can say the word without any shame, and that you don't expect that to be a bad, like, oh, stop talking to your friends who are dealing with suicidal thoughts. Like, no, like, wow, it's so good that you're in their life right now.
Right.
Like,
that's
and
good.
you're a part of it. That's such a big deal.
And I even think about it, younger too. Like, I have young kids, but even starting the conversations of not necessarily the word suicide, but hey, did anyone have a hard time at school today?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we always ask, did you see anyone do anything kind today? But also
There you go.
adding like, hey, did you see anyone have a hard time today? And what did you think about that? And maybe how can you help next time?
Right.
Just start, like, it doesn't have to start off with suicide.
Yeah.
It needs to start off, age appropriately. Just asking questions about, man, what's the temperature of the people around you?
Sure.
That we can get our kids the ability to see other people. When they're little, they only see themselves and what's happening to them. But how can we help them frame the world in a way of like them viewing other people and seeing where other people are coming from? So,
Absolutely.
I do ask those questions. A lot of times they say, I didn't see anything. No one did anything kind. But sometimes they say stuff. So,
But again, it could be that one time we're like, you know what? I actually did see something.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Let's talk about that.
Makes it worth it.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Yeah. So we're running out of time, but I do have one last thing. Is there any books, resources that you recommend? Anybody who wants to dig further into this and like they're big readers, maybe there's videos out there. Anything you could just recommend off the top of your head? I know you're on the spot, but
One of the books that I often refer to is what book entitled "The Gift of Fear" by Gavin D. something. There you go.
We'll find it. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. There's a lot of that, but it's pretty easy to read. But it talks about that sixth sense, that we have that gut feeling that something's not right, and often we'll just ignore it. Oh yeah, whatever. But it helps us identify that and kind of go, maybe I should ask some questions. Maybe, and it kind of walks you through some of that stuff. That's one. There's another one that I don't remember, but there's
Well, if you remember, send it to me.
I'll
put it in the show notes.
I will do that. Yeah, absolutely.
But I got one more thing for you.
Yeah?
I didn't prepare you for this, so but I trust you solely that you can do this. If you were able to talk to someone, right now, that was struggling with suicidal ideation and self-harm and all that kind of stuff, what would you say to them? If you can look at them in the camera and say, hey, like this is what I want you to know, what would you say to that person? If you
think that you are in that, what we call the river of life, and you're just drowning and you're just raising your hand, trying to waiting for somebody to just put their hand down and pull you out, I would encourage you to try to seek those people out and just let it be known that there's some pain in your life that you would it would be so helpful for you to talk to. And as we get more and more suicide prevention people trained, there are more people who around us in our communities who have the courage to ask that tough question. And there's resources available. And one of the cool things, especially with a relationship with Jesus Christ, for us as helpers, there's more and more people on the banks of that river who are willing to reach down and just let you grab on to that hand. We may not be able to pull you out. We may not be able to fix it, but we'd be happy to hold you up for a while, for a couple more breaths, just to give you a foundation and maybe a different perspective. Because one of the cool things is that as a Christian, my other hand is being held tightly by God. And he's not going to let me go. And I got a hold of you. I ain't going to let you go. So we got a lot of support here. And there's a lot of support, hopefully, around you in your community and ultimately through the love of Jesus Christ. And there's hope. There is hope. And God says, I think it's in Romans, neither death nor life nor anything can separate me from the love of God. And I live on that. And I hope that you can too, that nothing can separate us from God, no matter what your past is, no matter what you're staring at, no matter how dark the pit is that you might be in. God's like, I still love you. And hopefully there are people around you who are willing to maybe to help you as well and just to be a listening ear. So I hope that you can find the hope in Jesus Christ. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the ASSIST program, is that a national thing or is it just?
It's worldwide.
Worldwide.
Yes. Wow. It's out of Living Works up in Calgary, Alberta. And the military actually has about 10 years ago just really hopped onto that as well because they do a lot with the veterans and things like that. Yeah, you could probably you can go on the Living Works website and you could actually find where there are trainings in your community. And
that's awesome.
Often they're open to the public in the community.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't say more, or like personally have gone through that program just a year ago. It's a 2-day, the one I did, it was a 2-day experience.
You did the big one.
I did the big one.
Yep.
Totally worth the 2 days of my life. Got to meet some incredible people. You were a fantastic instructor along with Christopher. I remember his name.
Yep.
And so, wow, it was just incredible. Like, it was good even just for interpersonal learning how to listen to people. Like, it's just so good. So highly recommend that. And if you want to learn more training, I couldn't say enough about it. It's worth it. Convince your boss, convince somebody to pay for it if you need to. I don't think it's that expensive, but it's like, do it. Like I don't know why this has become an advert for that, but it's really good and it's really powerful to have those skills. I couldn't say enough about it.
Yeah, you'll definitely walk away from there knowing exactly what to do when somebody says, I'm going to end my life. I pretty much guarantee it.
And feeling just comfortable with it.
Yeah,
like not even like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable talking about these hard issues. Still, it doesn't go away, but more comfortable with like, oh, this is actually the right thing to do. Like sometimes if you're just listening, you could have the thought like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it. Well, no, I'm listening. This is the right thing to do. This is good.
Yeah,
so it's just confidence. Couldn't say enough about it. So thank you everybody for being a part of the Beyond the Lines podcast and hearing this whole thing. I am so happy that you listened to it and were a part of it. We record out of Central Christian Church in Arizona, and our website is centralaz.com/ I don't know why I keep adding a slash. It's just centralaz.com. I did this last time. And you can go check us out there. We have campuses all throughout the valley, as well as an online campus if you want to check it out. Yeah. Thanks for tuning into the Beyond the Lines. I'll see you next time. Until then, love beyond your lines.
Thank you.
Thank you.